On today's video, I'm going to try to answer some questions that come in on the comments section of our channel. We post up a new video almost every day, and we try to answer those questions on a daily basis. But some of them, I think, sharing the general information that we are putting out there, I think it's handy to have a video like this, because some of the people may not be able to check every question and every answer, and I think this is just a great way of doing it. We get the information out to more people, and people that have sent us in information. There is some information other people have sent us on this video, and we do enjoy sharing it. And keep in mind, that's one of the beauties of YouTube, and the thing we all seem to like, it's all free. On today's video, we're going to try to answer some questions that are sent in on the comments section of videos that I post on my channel every day. I do try to post something every day. I do try to share the information on the videos concerning motorcycles and paintwork and carbon fiber. Basically those three topics. So let's go down to the computer, and I keep track every day of the comments that come in and see if I can share some quality information. So I thought the first question I'd address on my list, and this is from Jerry. And Jerry, this is something I always start off every video by saying I do know things about several subjects. I do know a lot about a few subjects, but there's some things I always like to defer to. This is a question I have to defer to, even though I should know the answer to this. He has an 1100 GS, and he wanted to know if the carburetor is from an 850, or he has an 850, so I've already got this confused. And I apologize to anybody I get that question wrong, but what I think he's asking, and I'm trying to copy this off of the comments, are the 850 and 1100 carbs the same? And to be honest, I don't know. But I know Tim had an 850. I have two sets of 1100 carbs. I don't really know. Now, the only way I would know is if I had somebody that I knew. I think Aaron has an 850 still. And if somebody would like to send me the information, I'll pass it on. Just put it in the comments section. But apparently the problem he's having is a common problem. And I wanted to start off the video with this comment. This is really the meat and potatoes one. He's trying to get the bike to run right. This is a very common thing. People have older bikes, and what they're looking for is they want the bike to run right. They're not looking to win the drag races. They're not looking to be MotoGP. They have a 20, 30, in my case 40-year-old bike sometime. You just want it. When you give it the gas, it takes the gas, and it's reliable. And we're not looking to make hot rod bikes. That's for another video. This is my suggestion to anybody who has an older bike and you're trying to get it to run right. It has a thing. The typical thing is it doesn't take the gas right, it doesn't idle right, it doesn't do this or that. And it's always easier. It's easier if you can put all the stock parts back on the bike. Mainly the exhaust and the air filters. As soon as you put pods or aftermarket exhaust, you open up the rabbit hole and you start going down, and sometimes it's frustrating. Sometimes you do get it right, but boy, it can be frustrating. I will somewhere in the future show the collection of jet kits and mufflers that I have. And basically, I always, at the end of a lot of going back and forth, most of the stock parts are back on the bike, up to a point. But anyway, so this was my suggestion, is always start with, if you can do this, start with the stock airbox and the stock exhaust system, and then try to, if that you still have an issue, then it's time to do some cleaning the carbs. Now, cleaning the carbs, I don't want to make a big video about cleaning the carbs. I've already done that. There's several of them out there on my channel. And there's even better ones if you just go to Mikuni Carbs and look at some of the things that they have. All the Mikuni Carb videos are great. But that's a hard thing for people to grasp. Now, it's hard for a reason. Is when you buy an old bike, the first thing you think is, oh, I'll change the muffler, it'll go fast. I'll take the airbox off and oh man, they'll do it. Now, usually if you see somebody that's got that working pretty good, they've done a lot of experimenting. And maybe you can get them to do your bike too. That's always a good idea. So if it works out there, especially with RDs and two-strokes, everybody wants pods, everybody wants tuned pipes. So the bike makes a little more power, and it doesn't idle right, and it doesn't take the gas right, and usually, and in my case, I put my RD right back to stock, and I just want to ride it, and I want it to run right. And so that's the first piece of information I can give to anybody is if you're diagnosing something, try to diagnose it with as many stock parts as possible. So in my small collection, I have an 09 R1 Crossplane. Now, when I made a whole exhaust system for this bike. I knew it was going to change the fueling, but it's a fuel-injected bike, and fuel-injected bikes up to a point will make the adjustment. The problem is, older bikes, my FZR, you got to make the adjustment. They don't have a computer on board to tell you it's running rich or lean or not running well at all. And so always keep in mind, a fuel injection bike, if you don't want to tinker with bikes, a fuel injection bike is going to do a lot of the work for you. The old guys like me that are running older bikes and even older bikes, these bikes, you have to make the adjustment. Now, I just wanted to show, in my opinion, all of these things would work. They're all jet kits. They're all for different bikes. I have needles. I have extra carburetors for almost every bike that I own. And the problem is, to do this, it's time consuming and it's frustrating unless you really have a good base knowledge of how to do it. There's two different tuned exhaust systems for my RD. Guess which exhaust system is on the bike right now? And by the way, if you have these pipes, you better have a bucket full of main jets and needles and pilot jets if you want to really get it to run right. Now, of course, if I was younger, I'd probably have the tuned pipes back on the bike, but for right now, at this point in my life, I just want it to run right. And to be honest, I'm enjoying the bike just the way it pretty much came from the factory. But always keep in mind, any fuel injection bike will automatically make those little corrections. But on older bikes with carbs, you got to have the parts, the needles, the pilot jets, and you got to have the time and energy to do it. Now, on my GS, believe me, I have a bucket of pods that over the years I thought, well, because that air filter, when you go to take the carbs off and make adjustments, it's a nightmare. And once the manifolds get rock hard, even worse. Bike's 40 years old. When you want to take these things apart, it's a nightmare. But the good news is, if you have the stock parts, number one, never throw them away. The day you get the pods, don't throw that stuff away. That's good information. And the stock exhaust. Now, I have other exhausts for this bike. Yeah, it doesn't run exactly the same. And the biggest thing you notice, it doesn't take the gas exactly the way it should. And that, to an experienced rider with 50, 60 years of riding, the biggest joy of a motorcycle is when it just takes the gas in a linear manner, beautiful, doesn't do anything silly. Nothing is worse, and even for a new rider, it's annoying. You're giving it the gas, and just so annoying. And usually you got, again, my best information from somebody who knows. You got the best shot at enjoying a motorcycle when it's totally stock and running right. And Luciano had a great saying. I think Ray shares the same saying with me, one of my intimate, good, close friends. One of the things, if you want a faster bike, just buy a faster bike. Buy a bike that's already tuned and you don't have to fool with it. Oh, it's hard. Good advice from somebody who really has been down the rabbit hole. Now, one thing I like about answering these questions is because I learn things along the way too. And you develop a little relationship with people when you go back and forth, and you usually find out you can learn something from them, they can learn something from you. It's a win-win. Now, this I'm gonna just go down a list here because some of these are, I think, very, very good things that I like to hear, and I'm sure other people have a different opinion. Now, a fellow named Gary, he says, I've been riding, Gary, you've been riding 60 years, you've got to be as old as I am. Not many people are, you know. Not many people make it to this age. I don't know. Too many bananas along the way. Anyway, he has a bike collection of 5 Kawasaki's. And so obviously we got a lot in common. And Turbo Steve loves his turbo bikes. And Luciano likes every bike on the planet. But the thing he agreed with me on, and now this is why I like the channel. He agreed. He said, I went through the same thing. I have the same bucket of mirrors. I spent a lot of money, and in the end I wound up with the same exact mirrors you are putting on your MT-09 as soon as the fitting comes from China. Well, then I get the next comment that I get is from, and I got to go back, I got to find it because I think they're all good, and it isn't like we're you know, trying to embarrass each other or something, but I want to make sure I don't credit the wrong person with this. But anyway, we go back and forth, and I think it was Booza, but I'm not sure. And I've gone back and forth with Booza a few times. Seems like a cool guy. And He says, why are you putting these big giant mirrors on the bike? Well, that's the beauty of motorcycling. You can ride a touring bike, big saddlebags, girlfriend on the back, nice big windshield, and I can be riding a sport bike. Another guy can be riding a dirt bike. And we can all learn and share from each other. But the thing with mirrors that's hard to explain to people, that mirrors, yes, some look cool, and I always go back to the thing of me having a dental mirror on my drag bike and thinking how cool I was. Well, you know, I don't know how I lived to this age, to be honest. Now, it's the same thing. I'm gonna reference NH Black. NH Black says he enjoyed Luciano and I talking back and forth. He said it's the voice of experience. I hate to clue you. It's not experience. It's old age. And because we've both somehow survived into our 70s after riding, in my case, racing for 7 years, track days, dirt bikes, and the most ludicrous things on motorcycles when I was young. And here I am. I made it to the end. I made it to the playoffs. I don't know if we're going to the championship here, but anyway, I like a comment like that. But it's true. Younger people, and I never like to put young people down. It's not a put down. Because you guys know a lot more about computers. You guys know how to do things that I can't even, electrical work and stuff. But you know what? When it comes to that overall thing at the end, they don't keep score of a baseball game in the 7th inning and tell you who wins. It's in the 9th inning. And Luciano and I and many of my friends, we're playing in the bottom of the 9th inning here. And that's why some of the comments, if you learn those things when you're younger, one of them is don't throw the airbox away. That's a good comment. How many people, I bet I could name people back in the day of 750 Hondas. The first thing they bought a 750 Honda, throw the exhaust pipes away, put a 4-into-1 pipe. Those exhaust systems are worth thousands now, if you could even find one. Everybody in the world wants to go back and have the look of the stock exhaust. That's what makes motorcycling fun and enjoyable. And these little things we go back and forth about, who's got the cutest mirrors, who has the shiniest paint. You got to take it all in fun, because everybody has a legitimately different opinion, and everybody they look at something and say, yeah, I kind of like that, I don't like that, I love this, I don't like that. And then once you can accept that, the world of motorcycling is a lot more fun. Now, I'm very lucky. Among my friends and people I hang around with, people in the 18, we have a wide variety of motorcycles that we enjoy riding, that we enjoy working on, and that we enjoy sharing the information on and being part of the A-team. Another thing we share with motorcycling, and this is a perfect example of how what I think is intelligent information to share. A fellow named Furby sent me a real nice email, and I call them emails. They're actually in the comments section. You can read them all if you like. That he prefers the standard bead breaker better than the promotion one. Well, I have both, and I try to show how to use both on my videos. And it's the same thing with changing tires. I try to show the spoon method. We've done the Luciano has a tire machine method. Then of course you can always go to the dealer and just pay. But I like to do my own work. I just feel, it's just me, I guess. Being old is a part of it too. Now, another thing, and that's the point of motorcycling. Just because you can do something one way, if you can change a tire a certain way, it doesn't mean that's the only way to do it, or the best way, or whatever. So anyway, having that philosophy makes your life a lot more enjoyable, because you're not taking everything as a competition. And as I always say, it's not a race. Motorcycling, there's part of motorcycling devoted to racing, and it's a race. I did that for a while, and it's fun. But as you get older, you want less and less of that, the things that would normally go along with it, the maintenance and the expense, and you just want to have fun. You know, like girls just want to have fun. Old men just want to have fun. Do we ever? Anyway, David wanted to know how to polish titanium. Well, titanium is no different than stainless steel. It's a very hard metal, of course. Hard to saw. If you try to saw it, you'll wear out a saw blade, a normal hacksaw blade. You need special cutters. Usually you need the stone cutter to cut it. I don't know what the right word is. I haven't used one in such a long time. I don't even know what they call them now, but they hook onto Dremel tools and whatever. But anyway, if you go to cut it with a hacksaw, you wear out a lot of blades, that's for sure. But anyway, to polish anything, there's a secret. It's a flat surface, and it has scratches. All surfaces have scratches. So you want to use a rough material to get rid of any of the factory imperfections. And then go, in my case, if I were polishing my exhaust, I'd start maybe with 600, sand it down. Then go to 1,000, sand it down. But you could, if you want to do it from 1,500, but you want to wind up about at 2,000 grit, wet sanding the titanium. And then use any to polish. The mag wheel polish that Mother's makes is good. And the Flitz ball, that ball that comes when you buy Flitz products, they advertise, they call it the buffing ball. Boy, is that ever good for doing exhaust. And we're going to have, I think very soon, coming up on another polishing video for polishing exhaust. Well, we got some of our bikes are due for a good polishing anyway. But titanium, is polishing it, no different than steel. The same rules apply. And then once you polish it, there's that cycle of maintenance. So again, in my case, I always put some Flitz on at the end to protect it. It's a metal protectant. It puts a little extra shine. It's 6,000 grit. And of course, at the very end, I want it the longest time interval before I have to polish it again. And I hope that's good information. And by the way, 3M pad is another good way. If you don't want to use sandpaper, the red and the green pads, and just polish wet. A little bit of soapy water. Polish until it looks not shiny, but it has fewer imperfections. The more of it you do with the pad, the quicker it's going to go when you use the polish. Now, a fella named Paul, and I'm going right down the list. He asked me, why don't I make carbon fiber mirrors? I got so caught up in the mirror thing there. Well, you know what? I've thought about it. And I thought, you know, it looks overboard then. See, carbon fiber, to me, coming from the world of airplanes, carbon fiber is real stuff. It's not stuff you glue on to make it look cute. It really, a wing spar, a propeller. The parts I made when I manufactured carbon fiber parts in my business, they were structural parts. They were not there to look cute. The carbon fiber fuel tanks I used to make had to hold gas. They didn't really have to look that pretty. So mirrors, I don't know. I have a shiny set of mirrors. If that China would ever ship me that part, so I need a little adapter. And I'm so out of touch with the way the thing has evolved. I totally forgot that the modern bikes have a reverse thread on the right side. Anyway, a note from Jonathan. He sold 2 GSs, and I'm trying to go back. One at 55 and one at 60. Here's a lesson if you're a new young kid. Never sell your bike. Years later, almost every person I ever met is sorry they sold their RD for $300 or their 750 Honda for $400 or something. I personally had a 55 Chevy that was in really nice shape, and there was a time in my life I needed some money, and you know, when young people, you need money, hey, bail bonds or whatever. I don't even remember. But the thing is, I sold it for $450 and thought I made a killing. A nice 2-door 55 Chevy with a 3-speed on the floor and a 283. $450. Yeah, come on. The thing is probably worth thousands right now. I don't even know. But it would be nice. And that is a thing, if you could only, why I have a garage full of motorcycles, I never sell them. And I always think, oh yeah, I'll get a couple $1,000s for this, a couple thousand for that. And what good is it? I can always make more money, but I can't get those bikes back. All those RDs I had, gone with the wind. Now this is from the years I was swapping out the exhausts on the RD and changing things and trying to make a cafe racer out of it, and all of the fun I had. It was a lot of fun. But you know what, in the end, it all went back to being a stock bike. Now, I have a couple of questions from Derek. Derek, this is a question. I always defer this answer to other people because I always know when other people know a lot more than me. And this is a very simple answer, but it's not really the answer you're looking for. And he asked, what kind of oil do I use in the motorcycles? Now, I use almost all the time Yamalube. I buy it by the case from Amazon. It's a few bucks cheaper than buying it locally. Now, Yamaha 1040 I have used forever. For one reason, I never have problems with the clutches. I never have had problems with engine wear. And I've never had really any issues that I could attribute to the oil. Now, synthetic oil, I know an example. Joe Roselli has an MV Augusta, and they recommend chemical oil. So here's what I'm saying. You check the owner's manual, and if they recommend chemical oil, that's a good choice. Now, when I bought the R1, it specifically said, use 1040 Yamalube. I'm sure they wanted to sell you Yamalube. They're not going to tell you to use Kawasaki oil. But I understand that motorcycle oil that there's a JASO formula that they meet. And I would say this, I know people, and I would not mention any names, but I'm sure everybody knows, they go to Walmart and buy the oil that comes out of McDonald's, and they put it in their bike or something. I don't know about that. I really don't know. I would recommend use oil that's made for a motorcycle and pay a couple extra dollars and change your filter every time. That's something I do, is invest a little money in that instead of, if you know what a job it is to take an engine apart, and the gaskets are $150. And when that engine wears and it's smoking and whatever, breaks, and you think, how much oil could I have bought? My God, you could back an oil tanker in here and not have a problem. So it's always good, if you think about that ahead of time, that's the time to think about it, not when it's too late. Now, whatever money you spend on oil and filters, the day you have to pull that engine out and you have to work on it and you have to go buy the parts, and oh my God, and you have to have your friends come over and help you, and then you find out you're not as smart as you thought you were. Oil is the cheapest investment there is. Okay, the kind of tips I enjoy sharing, and I'm sharing, this is from Martin A., and he's changing his own tires using a Motion Pro bead breaker, and he mentioned that it's a good idea to put the Windex on and wait. Well, there's a couple of things I found, and I'm going to be changing some tires pretty soon. A couple of things I've found for sure. The biggest thing of changing any tire, whether you're taking the old one off, the new one on, get the tire hot. I at one time made a box with a heat lamp in it, and this worked really good at pre-warming a tire, and I had the heat lamp from I guess you keep the food warm at McDonald's, and it would get the tire really nice and warm, but unfortunately it kind of walked away. Or whatever, electric heater or whatever. But the best thing is wait for a hot sunny day and put a black rug out on your driveway and just leave it there. And I've had the tires, even when Glenn was putting tires on. I remember Glenn putting one on. He almost went overboard on the Titanic. The tire just went, because the tire was so hot you could hardly touch it. That's the biggest trick that I know of. Now, this is, and again, I'm referring back to Derek. I've gone several, maybe this is two Dereks with the same bike. I don't know. Anyway, maybe it is Derek, and I apologize if I'm not getting this 1,000% right. But Derek, he has it doesn't say in this email, but I think I'm referring back to the old one, an 81 GS, but I may have this wrong. And it leaks fuel. Well, when a bike leaks fuel, there's a lot of reasons it can leak fuel. I did respond to this, but just as an example, I always have these out here for reference for showing people how to do things with carburetors. But anyway, there's a lot of things not to worry about. The most obvious thing when a bike leaks fuel, there's a Viton tip that shuts the fuel off. The float pushes up on it. The Viton tip shuts the fuel off. That 99% of the time when a bike leaks fuel, what happens? It pushes up. The tip is worn. It's Viton, they say. It's like black rubber. And what happens? Fuel keeps going in. Well, now the float bowl is all the way up, but the fuel is still coming in. It eventually leaks out the overflow. So you can diagnose it yourself. If you see fuel coming out the overflow, let me see if I can show this on these carbs anyway. The overflow is right between the two carbs. And so when you see fuel coming out the overflow, it's pretty much guaranteed you need some Viton tips. Now luckily you can buy all the parts for all the carburetors, and they have real good help. You call up and ask for the tech person at Sudco. Those little Viton tips, not that expensive, and if you have the whole carburetors all apart, sometimes it's a good idea to just replace them anyway and not wait for, if you replace this one, don't wait for this one to leak. Now I just did, and it's on the channel, I had on the FCR, again, very old bike, the joint, there's a little joint with two O-rings between the carbs, and that O-ring had dried out. And so I had replaced it. There's a video, FZR carb repair. You put my name in quotation marks, FZR carb repair, and replacing that. Now, what I did after that, I started the air. I got it all done. It was a snowy day, I remember. I went out to the driveway and just ran the bike for 15 minutes and kept looking in to see if anything was coming out the overflow. I really am when we bought the bike, Luciano and I bought the FZR, it leaked fuel. And Luciano was very frustrated. We did the Viton tips, gaskets and everything. But in the end, what Luciano did, I thought was a very, and thank you, Luciano, he took it upon himself to go to eBay and bought me a new set of carbs. And that worked perfectly. And the FZR carbs, over the years I've had the bike, have given me a good education in how to work on carbs. And the result is I bought 2 fuel injection bikes. Another question, and I've heard this before, and here's my philosophy on this. Derek has an 81 GS with electrical problems, and to be honest, and I'm never ashamed to admit, I hate electricity. I know so little about it. If it isn't a simple fix, I don't know what is. But what I have done, because I'm incompetent in dealing with electrical matters, I've taken the factory manual, and in this case for a GS, it's a good example of something. And I've made my own little schematic, and I've showed how to do that on previous videos of I was tracing out a sensor or whatever I was doing. And I have to do it one step at a time. Other people like Vince and like Luciano can just take a multimeter or a tool, and I have to do it like in baby steps. But the biggest thing is, if you have a bike with electrical problem, pick up the factory manual. Without that, you may as well be blind and underwater. And even with the manual, sometimes it's difficult. And this whole thing we've been talking about carburation a lot. There's so many things. Carburation is a world unto itself. You eliminate the whole problem if you have a fuel injection bike. That's the end of it. Now, again, that's the end of that. I have never had anything like a fuel adjuster or power commander or anything, so I don't know anything about that. There's people that post that information up, and they're probably very good at it, and they somehow manage to squeak out getting a 1 more horsepower or something, whatever they do. That doesn't interest me at this point in my life at all. What interests me is nice smooth gas, reliability, and not having gas leaks. Now, the gas leaks, another thing, can really be a problem. If you're out on the road, and I know Luciano, when we had his Ducati, we were doing a shakedown run on one of the Ducati, the Monster, I think, and all of a sudden his leg got wet, and we said, oh boy, Joe Padula has had a leaky gas tank on his GS. I've had leaky gas tanks, and it's not fun. Believe me, that's an axe. You can't have that gas. See, here's the problem you can't do. If you have a leaky gas tank, they always leak at the bottom, by the way. And the top never leaks. And you park it in your garage overnight, and if worse, if the garage is attached to your house, and it's going drip, drip down, it's got a puddle. And the mouse comes by smoking a cigar. Bye-bye house. Anyway, I don't know how much of that information is that people can obviously use it, and it's valuable, or it's just entertaining. I don't know. Now, this is the kind of email, you can't make this up. Peter, I love this. I love this. I'm doing it. I'm writing down the questions that people send in. And a guy named Peter, well, okay. He says, I was looking for bike information and found one of my old modeling comrades. Well, Peter, you're very lucky. I've been looking for my modeling comrades my whole life. Hey, from the world of modeling, and a lot of people ask me, why did I drop out of modeling? I didn't. I aged out. You don't understand. The amount of energy that I put into the world of model airplanes, having my own business and competing worldwide and internationally and everything, the whole thing is all-consuming. And to be honest, I just aged out, but I still love model airplanes. Now, for anyone who's never been involved in competitive model airplane flying, it is an all-consuming. Your whole life has to center around building and flying the planes and all the travel that's involved. It's an all-consuming thing. Motorcycling, in comparison, is very relaxing. Now, I don't know how much of this is true. Paul, I got him inspired and pumped up. And he said it's better to be busy than be old. Better to be busy and tired than just plain old. Well, Paul, you're right. Stay busy. The secret to old age, to staying and having a great time, is stay busy. And Luciano and I have both eaten our vegetables, and here we're well into the 9th inning here and swinging at the baseball. Okay, now this is from my friend Joe Roselli. Joe, I know you won't mind me using your name. Joe loves sharing the old videos I've been putting at the end of the video, at the photographs at the end of the video. And to be honest, Joe, I have thousands of them on my computer, and I love sharing them because I get nice emails and nice comments about them all the time. And it reminds me of that about a 10-year period that we had the A-team. And I'm glad I shot all the video and all of the pictures, because some of us have aged out, some of us have moved on, some of us have become track stars, and some of us have passed away. But having those pictures is priceless. Priceless. Okay, so here's another thing. Jerry, 850 Suzuki, clean the carbs, does not take the throttle. Well, here's the deal. This is an easy one. You have a GS especially. You have this phenomenon of you give it gas and it go and then maybe at some point it kicks in. It's the pilot jets are clogged. Almost guaranteed. Now, Pete just had a Suzuki Bandit the last year, and he suffered with that exact thing over the whole summer, and eventually wound up putting brand new pilot jets in the bike. Cured the whole problem. Now, when you clean a pilot jet, the hole is so small, don't dare stick a pin in there or in anything. Clean it with carb cleaner. And if you have, this is a tip from Chuck, who's an expert at this, is take the thin nylon fishing wire and push it through. Another thing you can do, if you have clogged pilot jets, go get a can of Seafoam for $10. Read the can, how to do it. Put 4 ounces in a 4-gallon can. It tells you right on the can. And what happened on my GS, it's such a job to take those carbs apart. There was a time it wasn't idling right. I put the Seafoam in, rode my 150-mile ride that day, and at the end of it, filled it up with clean gas, pulled it in a driveway, it idled like a brand new bike. So maybe I was lucky, I don't know. Now, this is Rich. I appreciate this comment so much. A fellow named Rich has been watching me suffer with trying to find a way to cover that bolt on the side of the frame. Well, I've tried. You know, even Michael Jordan misses a few baskets, and Tiger Woods hits himself in the head with the golf ball once in a while. And because I'm fussy about it, I have done all the geometry. I've made fake cardboard parts, metal parts, carbon parts, and yes, they do make it better, but they don't do exactly what I want it to do. So my solution is, as always, I punt the football. I give it a lot of thought, listen to a lot of people like Rich that have other ideas. Making another seat would be easy. That, for me, making a seat is not a big deal at all. I can buy another seat and make a custom seat and then keep the stock one. I have a lot of choices, but right now it's coming up on a riding season, and I have a lot of tires to change and a lot of other stuff to do. So I didn't want to get all consumed about something when I have a lot of other things. And I'm painting Turbo Steve's that XN85 turbo bike for him. It's all out on the channel and all free. That's the part everybody likes. Anyway, let me go through this and see. I hope I haven't missed anybody. And if I have, I apologize. Oh, this is another great tip. S.T. Hildes. He's a professional now, car and motorcycle detailer. And he told me about this product, FK1000P. I'll repeat that. FK1000P hard wax. Now, we've been using Colonite, but if I had a sample of this or some way to get some, I definitely would try it. People that do things for a living, a professional car detailer, is always going to have a lot better take on something than somebody that waxes their car once a year. So this is the kind of help, and you can pass it on. Now, another thing, if you wash your microfibers, professional detailers, I'm sure, have other tricks, and I appreciate them sharing it. But I have figured out years ago that you can't wash microfibers with your underwear or your wife's underwear. That's a problem. You put them in a separate load. I put a cup of Simple Green in, a cup of laundry detergent, wash them, and then once I've done the wash and rinse, I wash them a second time and then dry them. and it seems like that works pretty well, that you get to use the microfibers over and over. But then at the very end, if you go into a car show or you're going to Turbo Steve's house or something, you want to put that final gloss, use a brand new microfiber. And they're not that expensive when it comes down to, I know people that are using bath towels that look like they're from the Civil War or something. Anyway, Derek wanted to know about buffers and buffing wheels. Well, you know what, that sounds like a good subject for a whole video in the future, but right now I buy the cheapest stuff I can from Harbor Freight because I use it and throw it away. Now, you could buy a professional buffing wheel. They're $300-400. If you're doing cars and you're doing it all day long, probably would pay. I wear out a buffing wheel maybe once a year, the real inexpensive ones that are $12-15. Just throw it away and buy another one. That's my philosophy, and it works pretty good for me. So far, anyway. And keep in mind, you know, there's always somebody that knows a lot more than me. I know, like this fella that's a professional detailer, I'll bet you any money he has good stuff. And Glenn had the beautiful, I mean, it was awesome when we buffed out his Kawasaki. Holy mackerel, is that stuff cool, but I know it was a lot of money. Now, in my case, I have children and grandchildren, and motorcycling is not the only thing I enjoy spending money on. So I try to get a good value for my money, but I don't want to wind up at the end of my motorcycling career with $10,000 worth of tools that they can put in a casket with me. So trying to keep it realistic. And most of my friends have a limited budget too. But I'm sure the people that have more money enjoy spending it. That's a good thing to spend it on if you have it. Okay, so now we get to one that I really like. James, why lower the forks? James, it's an old-fashioned trick from dirt biking. A lot of people, and it depends how much you want to lower it. If the bike is handling the way you like it, don't touch a thing. Don't fix it unless it's broken. But in some cases where I'm riding, and I'm riding on roads where it's really twisty, and it's slippery. There's salt, there's dirt, there's dust. Sometimes the roads are wet in the morning, who knows what. Those conditions, it's nice to have a bike that steers a little quicker. Just relate this to what the factory thought was a good compromise between high speed and low speed. And a lot of people, if you were going to go to Bonneville Salt Flats, you don't lower the forks. You rake them out. Because raking them out, you'll get something at high speed, but you're going to really give it up at low speed. Think chopper. Think of if you ever seen a guy on a chopper go around a corner. Yeah. So a little bit quicker turn in, and it's personal. Now, if I rode your bike and you rode my bike, you might think, oh, this is too quick. I don't like it. But the late Bob Gordon was the one that turned me on to this. He had his 900 Honda, and it was wearing the tires not quite to the edge. It was wearing them, I don't remember what the issue was. And he talked to somebody, one of the people, and Bob was a professional racer. I mean, his wife was a track day worker. So what I'm saying is these are people that really know stuff. He had talked to people and he said, lower your forks about 10 millimeters and the problem will just go away. He lowered the forks and he was carving up a storm, and he really was a good rider too. And then sadly he was, you know, he isn't with us anymore, but he left behind a lot of pictures I have and a lot of video he's on, especially the ones at the market meetup. So, moving on. Another, I love this. Paul. He agreed on all the points I made on the mirror videos. But you don't have to agree. It's not a thing of agree or not agree. The thing is, look at the information I put out there. If anything, like a I don't know what would be a right thing, like a, you go to pick something that you think might work. The key is to try things that you can undo if you don't like them. If one thing is you put a mirror on a bike, I like the mirror down here, I like the mirror high. Here's what happens when you get old, and I know you younger people that are in your 50s, 40s and 50s. What happens is, when you're real young, you can do that. When you get old, like me, you go, and you want to have that mirror where you can see it. I don't want to go struggling, and it's been an ordeal for me to find mirrors I'm really, really happy with, and I finally found them. But it didn't come easy, that's for sure. And Joe asked me to pass this on, Joe Roselli. He has CRG Arrow mirrors, and he said he paid a lot of money for them 10 years ago. They're still on. He took them off the bike he traded and put them on a new MV Agusta, and they're still perfect. And Joe, I'm passing that information on. Maybe 10 years ago I should have bought the expensive ones too. I don't know. But anyway, okay, we get to subjective things. Keep in mind, most of motorcycling is subjective. Jim likes the sound of the 750 Ninja. Well, Jim, to be honest, truth in advertising, I've got 5 different mufflers for the bike. And some of them I've had on more than once, like the Norton ones. I love the sound when we used to ride in Harriman Park all the time. No houses. Where I'm riding now, when I was riding around with those Norton mufflers, they were so loud, oh, holy mackerel. And I know I snuck by a lot of things that maybe I should have gotten caught in the net. So we're at this point, again, you always think, what part of your life are you in? You know, the new kid who gets his first motorcycle, the first thing you do is take a 1/4-inch drill and drill holes in the muffler. I want my friends to know I'm here in the corner. Yeah, and then after a while, after you pay the 7th ticket and something else, sooner or later, or you know, you figure some of that out. And that's where these things where people say, if you're riding, Luciano and I both are riding, so is most of my friends, they are. You're riding for a really long time, 60 plus years. You're going to learn something. And if you can pass that on to younger people, they are then standing on your shoulders. Hopefully, it saved them a lot of grief, money, maybe an accident, who knows. And it's all free, that's the good news. And if they don't like it, if they like loud mufflers, that's okay too. Okay, so Paul, here's a great question from Paul. He loves the Camaro Green. Well, you know what? There's a lot of things good about Camaro Green. I have a piece right here. I lift this out so I can show it. The first year Camaro came out with this paint, it's a beautiful, beautiful, it's a standard General Motors paint. You go right to the book at the body shop. It's much cheaper than having camera matched paint. It actually looks a lot like the real Kawasaki paint. But what's really nice about this, it's a GM color. So you don't have to worry about that one custom batch you had camera mixed and you can't get it. I bought 2 quarts of this over my career with the green bike and doing 2 sets of body work. And it has been just the best of all worlds. Inexpensive, it covers great, it sparkles in the sun, and I don't know how much better than that it can get. And when I picked this color out, Karen was instrumental in convincing me that it was a nice color for a motorcycle, and I have to admit, as the years have gone by, I think she was right. Now, I thought I'd end this with something that maybe a lot of people don't know. Some people do know it. But it's a fellow named Willie wrote me a nice note. He has an MT-09, and he wanted me to make a set of those carbon fiber brackets for him so that the windshield apparently has the same windshield, and it lays down the way mine does. Well, Willie, this is the whole thing. I don't have a business that I make things for other people. I did 10 years ago. I had a business. I made model airplane parts. I don't have the ability to do that, to take the time. I just don't have the time, is what really happens. And my suggestion is Google somebody does custom car work, fabrication, because if you show them the video or show them, just take some still pictures of what the brackets look like, or explain to them that you want to take, let me get it, in fact, I got it over here. What I did, I wanted the windshield, when you buy the thing, the brackets make it stand up, and it didn't work for me. Well, I wanted it to lay down just a little bit more, and you have to make a replacement set of brackets. Well, that's no big deal to do for me, but I can't go into production and make multiples of everything. But the good news is, on the video I showed every single step, and I know these videos get long, I know, I hear it all the time. Yeah, but I try not to leave out a step. And so having the videos, if you decide you want somebody who fabricates parts to make that, or maybe you can look at a different way of doing it, it doesn't matter. I like the look of the windshield laying back just a little more, and it seems like some of the people, all of the people, the comments that I've gotten, they kind of are in some agreement anyway that it looks better than the stock bike. But again, it's all in the eye of the beholder. So I'm going to end the video on that. I know this got long. We had a lot of comments, boy, and I tried my best. Hope I didn't mispronounce anybody's name or get something wrong or say that somebody had a this when they had a that or whatever. And I do try to answer them as they come in. So if you're ever looking and you put a comment out there, for sure within 24 hours there'll be whatever I can do to help solve the problem. And maybe some of it is life-changing and some of it you don't agree with me, but that's okay. We could still be friends. So I want to emphasize that almost all the information you need to maintain an older motorcycle or a new one, or information you just want to know about motorcycling or painting, almost all of it is somewhere out on YouTube. And if you know how to do a proper search and you know where to get the parts from and you're willing to spend a little time and energy, there's not many things you can't accomplish. And I have a good supply of it out on my channel. And the hot link to get an MT-09 t-shirt is in the description part of the video. And all the information we try to post is as good as we can possibly make it. The enjoyment I get from editing and making the videos is knowing most of my friends, and maybe all of them, have learned something from me, and the joy they should get is that I've learned something from all of them. And it's that sharing of the information. I think these videos that we do in YouTube, and there's coming up on 2,500 of them that I've posted, try to post up something every day. I think a lot of people have learned little tricks, little things they can do just to make the world of motorcycling more enjoyable, safer, more economical, or that you just live to be my age at the very end. And I'm going to be 77 this upcoming summer. So always wear your gear and ride safe. And thanks so much for watching.